Hello, and welcome to one of my beer reviews. Right, okay, this evening I'm going to be reviewing a beer which I have had before, and I actually have to be completely honest with you. This is the first review I've ever done which I haven't been looking forward to doing. And basically the reason why is because I'm going to be reviewing this stuff. Yeah, you'll all be familiar with it. You all was probably had it before. It's been around for donkey's years. It's available absolutely everywhere. And yeah, it's also renowned for not being a particularly good drink. Now you're probably wondering, why am I doing a review of this stuff? Well, a mate of mine a little while ago said, you do beer reviews on YouTube. Foster's is technically a beer, so there's no reason why you shouldn't review it. And to be fair, I couldn't come up with a decent enough argument against that. So hence here I am reviewing Foster's Lager. Good grief. Yeah. Foster's, well, it is not a recent thing. It's been around for donkey's years. Believe it or not, it was first brewed in 1886 by a chap called Ralph and his brother William, I think. Ralph and William Foster. They're American. They're from New York, and they arrived in Melbourne, Australia, and set up a brewery. So that's a bit of history about the product. It's been around for a very long time. However, these days it's not brewed in Australia. It's all brewed in this country, and I think, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's brewed in Manchester. But ironically enough, it used to be actually brewed locally to me at the old Courage Brewery site in South Reading. But that closed down about 10 years ago, and it's now an enormous Tesco's distribution centre. And actually, it was around about 2007. I actually met the guy that was responsible for brewing the Fosters there. He was like one of the head brewers. And he was like the father of a friend of a friend. You know, I just got into a conversation with him. And I said to the guy, so I'm assuming as you're a Foster's, you're the guy that brews the Fosters, you are a Foster's drinker yourself. And he gave me a really stern look and went, not a chance. I was like, well, why not? And he said to me, because I see what goes in it. And that is as true as I'm sat here talking to an iPad. He genuinely said that. And to be fair, he's got a point. This stuff is made as physically cheaply as possible. There's a very good reason you can go into a supermarket and pick up 15 cans of this, 24 cans of this for like 15 quid. They're not doing you a favour. They're still making a good profit on that. Yeah, it's really badly made. For example, they don't even use proper hops. They use a hop oil. Hops aren't supposed to be a liquid, for goodness sake. And then when they brew it, they pasteurise it. Now, you may be thinking, well, what's wrong with that? Milk gets pasteurised. But the thing about pasteurising beer, it just destroys it. It really does. Any sort of resemblance of flavour a beer is going to have, it just gets stripped away once it's pasteurised. And to be honest, I just don't understand why breweries nowadays do pasteurised beer. It's not a new concept. Pasteurisation of beer has been around since like the 1920s. But back then, all right, refrigeration did exist. That's been around since like the 1870s. But it wasn't commonplace. And it wasn't until really the 1950s when people started having fridges in their homes. So, back in those days, if beer wasn't pasteurised, it would go off pretty quickly. So I kind of understand why that was done then. But nowadays, we've all got a fridge. Modern brewing techniques, you just don't need to pasteurise it. You just don't. Nonsense. And then once they pasteurise it, they add insult to injury by filling it full of pretty nasty chemicals, mainly preservatives, just to make the beer last artificially longer. Well, basically, when a barrel of this stuff arrives at the pub and it gets spiled, which basically means it gets open to the environment and atmosphere, because of all the artificial rubbish inside it, it's probably got the best part of a month before it goes off. Now, the difference between that and cask conditioned beer, and I don't mean real ale, I don't mean key keg, that's a different beast altogether, but traditional cask beer, because that's a natural product, it's got nothing in it. Apart from just the beer. And once that gets spiled, general rule of thumb is you've got 7 days before it oxidises and tastes like vinegar. Some beers last longer. For example, a high ABV stout will last longer than a pale ale. Probably a good few days longer. But general rule of thumb is 7 days. And and then after they pasteurised it and filled it full of horrible chemicals, they then force carbonate it. Now, so the carbonation you get in this is artificial. Now I'm kind of on the fence on this one about forced carbonisation of beer. I've got quite a few people that I know who work in the industry and people whose opinions I highly respect, and a couple of brewers I know have a very differing view on this. I personally feel that if you've got a high turnover and you need to get the product out of the brewery quickly, then I understand why you're going to need to force carbonate it. And it doesn't really affect the beer too much. But my kind of thinking is, if you do have the luxury of time, and the beer is obviously a natural product, it's unfiltered and unfined, and you do have the opportunity to leave it in a cool store for a couple of weeks or maybe a bit longer, just let it do that. because it will quite happily carbonate itself through secondary fermentation. You know, that's kind of where I am on that. But anyway, yeah. I only do honest reviews. I'm quite adamant about that. And if I drink this stuff and I realise that it's the best beer I've had all year, you know, then I'll say so. But, you know, is it going to be better than some of the recent offerings I've had from like Siren Craft or Deya or Verdant or Wild Weather or Elusive? I think it's pretty unlikely. But as I said, only do honest reviews. Now, first thing that gets my heckles up before I've even opened the bloody can is what's written on it. Look at that. Crafted to refresh. What a load of nonsense. There's nothing crafted about this beer at all. It's all made by machines and computers. Of course, unless they're referring to the index finger of the person who just switches the machine on. Because that's about as close to handcrafted this beer's ever got. And it does annoy me because it's a misrepresentation of the product. You know, people will look at that, and then people that aren't generally in the know, they don't know much about beer, will look at that and go, oh, it's a craft beer, great, I'll pick it up. And it couldn't be further from the truth. It really isn't a craft beer. So it does annoy me, and they shouldn't be allowed to get away with it, but clearly they have, and they do. But yeah, crafted to refresh, yeah, whatever. Absolute coddlers. Right, well, I can't put it off any longer. I have to get it open and review the thing, don't I? So, let's get it open. Let's see what happens. Right. Okay. Right. Okay, stop there. Alright, well, it looks like the colour of piss, doesn't it? Timothy, stop it. Stop it. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. Yeah, right. Let's go in with the nose. Cheers. Well, not really getting much from that at all, to be honest. I can smell the lager malts, but they're very faint, and there really isn't much going on at all, to be honest. It's just smells very, very bland, to be honest. Right, let's go in with a taste. Cheers. Oh, good grief. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, it's well in date. Right, I won't lie to you, I wasn't expecting to enjoy this, but I didn't think I was going to find it offensive. Oh my good grief. I mean, years ago, before I discovered craft beer and real ale, I used to drink nothing but this stuff. I don't remember it tasting like that, but I wouldn't have drunk it. Basically, the first thing you get is pretty much nothing, because it's so unbelievably bland. There's literally just like nothing to it. And then eventually you get this sort of, the lager malts come through, but they have this really quite revolting metallic sort of tinge to it. It's really rank. It's horrible. And then eventually that disperses and you're just left with this utterly revolting aftertaste that just clings to the back of your throat. And it's still there now, it just doesn't go. And I can only assume that's coming from all the horrible crap they put in this stuff, all the chemicals. My goodness me, that's absolutely disgusting. Would I drink Foster's Lager again? No, absolutely would not. Someone put a gun to my head, then maybe, but otherwise, no, absolutely not. It's disgusting. Ah, gosh, the amber nectar. Yeah, right. So what would I give Foster's Lager coming in at 4% in a 4.4 milty can, 440 ml can, and get my words out. I don't think I've ever done this before, guys, but I'm going to give it 0. Absolutely nothing. And the reason why is because it's utterly disgusting. It's not just a poor beer, it's revolting. Its taste is offensive. It's horrid. Oh, good grief. And do you know the thing that kind of upsets me most of all about this is that, believe it or not, this is the most popular beer in the UK. More cans, pints and bottles of this stuff are bought than anything else. And, I mean, I know it's subjective and, you know, some people, they genuinely like this stuff and that's fair enough, you know, I get that. You know, but I think what I will say is that if you're someone that's only ever really drank sort of generic supermarket beer like Foster's and Stella and Carling, those sort of things, you've never really tried craft beer or real ale for that matter, you know, what I will say is, you know, give it a go. You never know, you might like it. Anyway, I think that's enough rabbiting on from me. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching. All the best. Cheers. Goodbye.